Hey everyone. Okay, we're going to be working on chapter 1.2, solving multi-step equations. We want to start by looking at what is our success criteria, what is our learning objective here, okay? And it's especially important in this one because the very first one says that you will be able to apply properties to produce equivalent equations. Equivalent equations being equations that are the same. And we're going to apply some properties. Okay, so the main properties we're going to be looking at is the equality properties, which we talked about in class, which is the addition property of equality, subtraction, multiplication, division properties of equality. Okay, basically those just mean if you add 2 to both sides, it remains equal. The other big one we're going to be doing is we're going to be using the distributive property. Okay, so if you don't remember the distributive property, it was the one where we distributed the number outside the parentheses and it would give us something like this. Lastly, it's not really a property, but we're going to be combining like terms. So negative 3x plus 2x. Well, we would combine these terms. So if we have negative 3x's and positive 2x's, we end up with negative 1x or negative x. And then once we get to that, we're going to solve the multi-step equation. Okay, so multi-step being that you have to add and subtract and multiply and divide to solve. And then lastly, to be able to do that in real-world problems. Okay, so let's get going here. All right, so your first note that I want you to take for your homework is I want you to write solving multi-step equations at the top of your paper. So the top of your paper, you should write solving multi-step equations. And then I want you to write this right here, use, and I almost want to underline, use inverse operations to isolate the variable. Okay, so the inverse of plus is minus, the inverse of minus is plus, the inverse of multiplication is division, the inverse of division is multiplication. So we're going to use the inverse operations in order to isolate the variable. Isolate means get it by itself. So let's do that here. This is just a multi-step equation. Okay, I also have a note, second note I want you to do. So first note is write solving multi-step equations, and then write use inverse operations, as I said, to isolate the variable. So we'll be looking for that, and then I want you to put note, start with the constant. So once you have done any property that is necessary, here we don't have to distribute, so we basically are just going to start. Always rewrite the problem. So if this was your paper, we're going to rewrite the problem on top, and then we're just going to start. So if you're the one who likes to draw the line, let's go ahead and draw the line here. And we're going to start with the constant, okay, as I say up here. That's going to be a note I want you to write as well. And then you can just kind of sit back and watch for a second here. So we're just going to subtract 15 from both sides, okay? So we're going to go 24 minus 15, which would be 9. Oh, lost my pen. There we go. Should be 9. And then we're going to have 3x, right? We got rid of those. We have 3x left. Divide both sides by 3. We have made that the 3 by dividing. It's 3 times x. We divided by 3, making 3 over 3 1x. And then 9 over 3. This thing right here just means divided, remember? So 9 divided by 3 is 3. And we can put a little box or circle saying that we are done with that. Okay, so in this one right here, before we get to just an equation just like what we had, we have a step before that. And the reason we do is because we have 8x here, and we have another negative 6x here. So the first thing we're going to do with these, hopefully you're thinking, is combine the like terms. So very simply, if I have 8x's and I subtract 6x's, that leaves me with 2x's. I should have rewritten this problem, so I'm already not doing what I'm supposed to do. But we're going to move on so I don't have to start over. Okay, so now we have a normal problem where we just have a multi-step equation, a two-step equation. That's what this is. So the first thing we're going to start with is our constant. So we are going to add 25 to undo the subtraction here. Okay, those become 0, leaving me with 2x over here. Let's go ahead and draw our line. 2x, and then negative 35 plus 25. Okay, so different signs subtract. That gives me 10. Keep the sign of the bigger number, then we'll be exact. So I end up with negative 10. And now 2 times x equals negative 10. The opposite of 2 times x is divided by 2. It also allows me to create a 1, which I like. 1x is equal to negative 5. And we are done. So on your notes, I want you to work out number 4, the one that says try this. So go ahead and pause. I want you to go ahead and do this. And when you're done, I want you to unpause. I will give you the answer during class to see if you got it correct. And if not, we'll work on why. Okay, so here's the one I was talking about with the distributive property. So we're going to start off here by, this time we're going to do it. We're going to rewrite the equation. Try to be neat in our writing. Okay, and now the first thing we're going to do is we're going to distribute this 2. Right? So we're going to take the 2 and we're going to distribute it to here and distribute it to here. In other words, multiply both of those terms by 2. So let's go ahead and do that. So 2 times 1 is 2. 2 times negative 5 is negative 10. So we end up with negative 10x. And then we have this little positive 4 over here that we just tag onto the end. And that equals negative 8. Now let's not get ahead of ourselves, and let's go ahead and draw our line just to keep everything nice and straight. So now we have a similar deal where we're going to need to combine like terms, but we've got a positive 2 and a positive 4. Those are both my constants, but they need to be combined before I have a normal looking two-step equation, right? So let's go ahead and combine those. Positive 2 plus 4, 6. So we have negative 10x plus 6 is equal to negative 8. Notice that even though I left a big gap, I went ahead and kept my equal sign in the center. Okay, so I don't need to rewrite it, but I do want to keep my equal signs lined up. We're going to practice that this year. Okay, so now we're going to undo the addition first because it's the constant, and that's the best order to do it in. So we're going to subtract 6, okay? And we're going to be left with negative 10x over here is equal to, and now notice we've got 2 negative signs, so same signs, add and keep. 8 plus 6 is 14, negative 14. Okay, and then we're going to divide both sides because this is negative 10 times x, so we're going to divide by negative 10. Those become 1. 1x is equal to negative 14 over negative 10. Okay, so that is not simplified. So we have a couple ways we could do that. We could turn it into a mixed number. I'm going to leave it as an improper fraction, and I'm just going to divide them both by their greatest common factor, which is 2, right? They're both even numbers, so they're both divisible by 2. So I have 2 negatives on top of one another as well. So hopefully you're noticing, like, hey, Mr. Hines, and 2 negatives, when we multiply and divide, give us a positive. So we're going to have a positive 7 over 5. If you want to make that a mixed number, you could do that, 1 over 1 and 2/5. And terrible box there, but we're going to move on. Okay. So now I want you to try number 7. That'll be the last thing I'll be checking on your notes. So you should try 2 problems, and you should have started off your whole notes with the two notes I said at the beginning. And now I'm going to just stop here, but I'm going to turn to this, and I want you to pause the video here in just a second, and I want you to read through this. They did a really good job of explaining this, so rather than run through this problem and take up extra time, I decided to just leave all the words. So this is in your book. This is using the mean. So I want you to read through this and just understand it. There's many different ways we can create multi-step equations to solve real-world problems. And again, I thought this was really well done. So please pause this. Please look at it. One thing I do want to note is this part right here. Notice that that when they had a denominator, that they went ahead and started by multiplying by the denominator to get it out of the denominator, because then these would cancel out, right? So, okay. Go ahead, and I'll go ahead and erase this for you. Go ahead and pause it, take a look at this, and we'll see you at school.